Good morning. My name is Amanda Kroetsch, and I am Métis on my mother's side. I am queer and a person living with invisible disabilities, mild traumatic brain injury, and complex PTSD. I am currently on OBSP and living in subsidized housing. I am also the founder and the executive director of the Domestic Violence Victims Alliance and Retail Therapy. Last Friday, I caught this nasty flu that's been going around, and it knocked me down so hard that I wasn't sure I would be well enough to be here with you today. I spent the past week resting, hydrating, and rocking my self-care. When I finally felt well enough to work on this talk, I discovered something very interesting as I allowed myself to feel into what I wanted to share about International Women's Day and this year's theme, Inspire Inclusion. I sat in front of a blank page for a long time, sniffling and sneezing and stuff. This feeling of being stuck is one that I've encountered countless times over the last 5 years of my healing journey. So I did what I usually do now when I feel stuck, and I asked myself, what do I need to feel safe and supported to not only prepare this talk, but to deliver it even if I'm still a little bit under the weather? What do I need to feel safe and supported? The first thing I discovered in this inquiry was that in order to even begin writing for the creative juices to begin to flow, I would need to give myself complete permission to cancel if I needed to. My body was not impressed that I was planning to force her to perform today, even if she wasn't feeling up to it. So after coming to terms with the possibility of canceling, I emailed Kylie and let her know that I was unwell and that there was a chance I would not be able to attend. Immediately I felt my entire body begin to relax and begin to start to feel safe. I asked again, what else do I need to feel safe and supported to prepare this talk and deliver it even if I'm not feeling 100%? This time the answer was so obvious that it made me both giggle and get emotional. The answer is something that I need to do together right now with all of you. So here we go. As I mentioned earlier, my invisible disability is mild traumatic brain injury and complex PTSD. These disabilities are the result of my experience with domestic violence and can show up in a variety of different ways. They can look like extreme nervousness and sudden crying, shaking, stumbling on or forgetting my words or train of thought, inability to hold eye contact, or talking too fast. I also used to travel the world with my abuser, co-facilitating workshops and attending many, many talks just like this. So as you can imagine, an environment just like this one could potentially be very triggering for me, but also very healing. In order for us to lean towards the healing side today, now that we know how my disabilities may present, I need to know from you with a show of hands that if they do, and if I make a mistake, or need to stop or take a breath, you will support me in doing so.
I got this, girl. Doing great.
Awesome. I also need to share that I will be disclosing some details of my experience with domestic violence. What I need in order to be able to take care of myself and feel safe while I share is permission to stumble through if needed and maybe even stop. Is that okay? And I also need to know that you will take care of yourself and whatever you may need during my share. If you need to put your head down on the table or look away or close your eyes or even leave the room, please know that I will do nothing but deeply proud of you for doing whatever you need to take care of yourself. Do you agree to take care of yourself this morning? And for the rest of the day? Okay. Awesome. So as I mentioned earlier, I discovered something very interesting as I allowed myself to feel into what I wanted to share about this year's theme, Inspire Inclusion. When I read up on this year's theme on the International Women's Day website, it said this: this year's campaign theme underscores the crucial role of inclusion in achieving gender equality. It calls for action to break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create environments where all women are valued and respected. And I would strongly add, safe. How can anyone participate in anything fully or equally when they encounter barriers, stereotypes, and lack of safety? They simply can't. We can't. I couldn't. Take the justice system, for example. In February 2023, I participated in a 10-day trial in BC Supreme Court, where I was attempting to seek the division of family assets from my common law relationship with my abuser. I had already completed the criminal court process, where my abuser pled guilty to 2 counts of assault and was given 12 months probation, a conditional discharge, and no criminal record. I was granted the ability to attend the sentencing hearing virtually due to my location and injuries and fear of having to be in the same room as my abuser. I was also granted the ability to provide my victim impact statement by video recording. All exceptions that I had to advocate very, very fucking hard for. Oh yeah, permission to swear? Awesome. These accommodations allow me to participate to the best of my ability at the time. If you ask Google, what is the true meaning of inclusion? One of the answers you get is this: inclusion is seen as a universal human right. The aim of inclusion is to embrace all people, irrespective of race, gender, disability, medical, or other need. It's about giving equal access and opportunities and getting rid of discrimination and intolerance and the removal of barriers so that everyone can participate equally, confidently, and independently in everyday activities. When it came to the family court process, in order for me to feel that I was able to participate in a just manner, on a level playing field, ensuring me equal access to every aspect of the justice system, I knew I would require many accommodations, some of which had never been granted before. With the family court process, I was required to not only attend trial in person, but to speak about the assaults in detail. I knew that given my disabilities, doing so in person would be absolutely impossible and likely put me in the hospital, or at the very least, render me unable to participate in any manner that would be beneficial to my case. So I asked myself, what do I need to feel safe and supported to attend a trial? Here is an excerpt from the exact email that I sent my lawyer regarding that question. As I have made clear from day one, it is my belief that I have a right to participate in the legal processes without them causing any harm to my mental or physical health. I am the type of woman and self-advocate who, when at a gynecological appointment, asks to insert the speculum or a wand myself in order to avoid triggering my past sexual trauma. And while every single doctor, male and female, thought it odd and resisted slightly at first, every single one of them agreed and that it did not impede one bit on their ability to do their job. A few even said that it makes complete sense, and they will, moving forward, offer self-insertion as an option to their patients. I understand that it is not the norm, and what we will be asking for at trial has never been granted before. I know that I mask my disabilities very well, and I may seem like the type of person who can just tough it out, but I assure you, I've only gotten this far in my healing journey by being impeccable with my self-care and diligent in doing whatever it takes to never have to tough it out again. This will be my first in-person exposure to my abuser, the person who, by simplest definition, tortured me for almost 4 years, the person who attempted to kill me. I am a survivor of attempted murder. People seem to forget this when dealing with me. My intention with our requests for trial is to create as safe an environment as possible so that my nervous system does not get activated while also not impeding on the legal processes. While I understand that your professional opinion is that there is some risk of annoying or pissing off the judge with my requests, there is also the chance that she will agree and want me to be able to participate powerfully and safely. She may even want to be the judge to set a new precedent. It's a risk I'm willing to take, and it'll never happen if we don't try. My lawyer wasn't impressed, and she just kept saying to me, it's never been done before. So I started gathering my own letters and figuring out what I needed to do just in case I was going to need to ask for these accommodations myself. On day 1 of the trial, I had to literally nudge my lawyer and hand her my own hard copies of my supportive docs in order to get her to make my requests. To her shock and my delight, the judge was willing to have a screen brought into the room so that while on the stand, I did not have to see my abuser. Despite this accommodation, I was a complete mess and in excruciating pain at the end of the day and almost ended up in the hospital. As I lay in bed that night, I knew that what I had been granted was not enough, and that I either had to ask for more or be willing to walk away. I asked myself again, what do I need to feel safe and supported to continue with the trial? The next morning, I told my lawyer, either we get what I need or I won't continue. She was not impressed, and she said she highly doubted that we would be granted anything else after what was already given. That what had been given was already highly unusual, and we should be grateful. I told her, I don't care. That day, and for the rest of the trial, my abuser was required to participate virtually from another room anytime I was on the stand. I also brought back support pillows and stress support gadgets and a plug-in heating pad because I'd gotten my period the day before trial. So you have to imagine me there on the stand, surrounded by these pillows and a footstool because the seats are freaking huge. My feet couldn't hit the ground. A big ass bottle of water, a bunch of stress toys, including this little fluffy hamster here for me to fidget with, and my electric heating pad plugged in, wire hanging in everyone's way. It was radical self-care at its finest. And you know what? It worked. I left that trial feeling that I was able to speak my truth and share my story and fight for my rights as best I could with my abilities at the time. And while I didn't win the case, I was able to navigate the legal process with power and safety and set a precedent that will now allow other domestic violence survivors to do the same. That's a huge win in my book. Inclusion is an act of rebellion and reclamation. And fuzziness. It's an act of rebellion against the patriarchy, and an act of reclamation of all the parts of us that have been ignored, invalidated, silenced, raped, and assaulted by it. And it also has to begin at home. until you make room to identify and validate and stand up for all the parts of yourself, you will not be able to radically include for all parts of others. In fact, this is exactly how retail therapy and the Domestic Violence Victims Alliance was born. I created a nonprofit that first accommodated and included all of my needs, that accounted for my disabilities. A feminist space that strives for inclusion in all aspects, including making mistakes and constant learning. And every single day I notice the patriarchy rearing its ugly head inside me, and I have to constantly call it out. Constantly make sure that as an individual and as an organization, we don't forget who we are, no matter how large, how loud, the internal and external voices of the patriarchy get. No matter how hard we try with the patriarchy, we can't ignore it. We can't outsmart it. We won't outgrow it. We just have to keep fucking outing it.
Yes.
So this year, I invite you to keep calling it out and take on inclusion as a radical act of rebellion, acclamation, and self-care. Ask yourself constantly, what do I need to feel safe and supported right now? And do everything in your power to get it, so that one day we never have to ask for it again.